I like spun my raft and I was trying to like back out, and the oars were a little short, so they skipped off the water a couple times because I was like trying to go fast and panicking a little bit,
Mhm.
and I wasn't able to clear this sweeper that I was like going right into. I got pinned right into it, and my downstream oar hit that log, popped out of the oar lock, and just never to be seen again. And then I'm like putting all of my body weight over the downstream pontoon because the water is coming down, like trying to flip me trying to flip me under, right?
Mhm.
And eventually my buddy got down below the log. He hopped out and we flipped my cataract over the log.
Drifters Society.
Yeah, man. Well, it's been a hot minute since I've had you on, and
Yeah.
for a bit there, you weren't getting out fishing because you're busy with other things in life.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the weather.
Yeah. I guess like we talked mid late summer last year, I think, when we had that whole group together.
Yeah.
Um, I had just gotten back from Canada. I went fishing for bulls out there, and then the rest of the summer was pretty low key. I'll be honest. Went silver salmon fishing once, or coho. Um, Went for grayling a couple times, couple rainbow trips, but other than that, like I kept it pretty low key. Found like a really cool population of like dwarf Dolly Varden that I fished a couple times. Um, but yeah, it was a really quiet year for me overall. Just you know, kind of fell out of it for a little bit, but and focused on other things. But overall, it was still a good year.
Yeah. Well, and it's kind of one of those things that like we love it a lot, but there is other stuff we have to get done at times.
That and like no matter how much you love it, like you still kind of burn out of it sometimes.
Hmm.
And like especially if you're going to the same spots over and over and over. It was it was good to take a little break and kind of just focus on other things and re-gear and regroup. So
Yeah. Yeah, and you have some other hobbies you like to do, right?
yeah. In the summer, I am in like a men's league softball, or like slow pitch softball league.
Yeah.
Um, and then I was like uh, roller skating quite a bit, busted those out, and would go on some nice, skates, and then different camping trips with, the dog and girlfriend, and then work was just busy overall too. This like end of season got pretty busy, so
Yeah. Yeah, man. I don't have a ton of other hobbies, but I guess I stay pretty busy with the podcast and um living on a farm. There's always something to fix, which been lacking on lately. Been chasing steelhead and getting nothing.
dude, I want to go steelhead fishing so bad right now. I've been seeing everybody post and like throwing up like, I mean, granted they're like hero shots of their fish, right? But like, God, I want to go steelhead fishing so bad.
No. Yeah, my one buddy was like, I was in the shop today and I was like, man, I'm starting to like lose my cool here with the steelhead, and he's like, don't worry, man. You know how it is every year,
No,
January,
you
February, super tough. You might get a tug here and there, but then March rolls around and all of a sudden tables turn and they start getting bitey right before they go into their spawn. And
are you swinging for them or nymphing or drifting beads? What are you doing?
yeah, I'm since last year just strictly swinging for them. I should really say that yeah, strictly always swinging for them, but I have got them not nymphing, but
Yep.
not targeting.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
Because browns and steelhead kind of like that softer water, so you do find them in like right off the bank, soft water
Yep.
next to a
Yep.
fast seam kind of
Yep.
thing. Yeah, I've definitely thought of it while I'm there and I'm staring at a bunch and I go upstream and swing, several patterns, rest the run, hands up, wait for them. I'm like, okay, this will work. And then, yeah, but
Yeah. I've like swung them before. Up here, there's a really good river to swing them. Or a couple really good rivers. Smaller, like skinnier water, but still swingable. And then out east, I've nymphed them. I mean, granted, you can get into the whole debate of whether they're steelhead or lake run rainbows or whatever the hell you want to call them. Big big Oncorhynchus micus. I've nymphed them and like beaded them, and then uh, in in Oregon I struck out. I was there for like 8 days fishing them. Didn't get a single bite. Uh, and then in New York, I've hit them on stoneflies. Pennsylvania, I've hit them on beads, and then in Alaska, I've hit them on beads and swinging flies.
yeah, for me, it's like I really want them on the swing and I'm willing to not get one to do it. But I question that every year by the end of the year as it gets closer into, you know, last year, I've said it so many times, was a good year, but I didn't actually land one. Um,
Okay,
but I do have the pleasure of knowing that I fooled a couple.
you got some good grabs.
I got some really good grabs and some really cool ones, using some like kind of, let's call them techniques that people have talked about. Just,
Okay.
you know, get a kind of a sniff that you think was fishy enough to think it was a steelhead and moving upriver a couple of steps and moving one back so your swing's coming at a new spot.
Okay. Yeah.
And then, yeah, just kind of paying more attention to how I'm swinging for them, the speed that I'm swinging for them,
Okay. Yeah.
and just fishing the run slower.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not rushing myself through it. So, yeah, it's been good, but um
What are your colors that you're swinging?
yeah, I don't know, man, in terms of like, do I have a really like a set color? I've been experimenting with like a lot of classic flies, so I've been tying a lot of like cool to me looking kind of classic or flies.
Okay.
But my guiding season's coming up as well, so I've been having friends out on the raft who are nymphing and tossing streamers because I just want to kind of get back in the. I haven't guided for a while, so I've been like just
Yeah.
focusing on swinging, but I don't guide for steelhead, so I
Yeah.
definitely make sure I know what's going on in the river, and
Yeah.
it's not the hardest to figure out once you kind of gone through it enough seasons. Like I know, you know, stone flies. February is always stone flies, whether it's a little earlier or later. You know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
there's a few other like midges can work, but I don't usually toss midges under euro because they're so small.
Yeah.
But
Are you fishing single hook rivers, or are you allowed to use multiple hooks?
yeah, legally just one hook, and I follow that suit. I guess I didn't need to say legally, but yeah, just
Like,
one hook barbless, single hook barbless,
yeah.
and yeah, it's but streamer fishing is
Is
my
it all barbless out there?
huh? Yeah, all barbless in rivers. You can fish barb for stocked fish, but
Okay.
yeah.
There's uh,
So, I don't.
There's not a law out here, barbless versus barb, but I think it would behoove the state to start implementing that. I think just because like all the fish up here are like messed up, and like yeah, you can mess a fish up barbed or barbless, but I feel like fish has the higher chance of like really messing a fish up. You know?
Well, yeah, and I mean, I'm so used to it because on our oceans for salmon, you have to be barbless as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, um, because there's you can't just retain everything you catch.
Yeah,
It's very much like um, every year. I guess it can kind of vary how many coho, hatchery, non-hatchery,
yeah, yeah.
and then size as well. So, yeah, there's a lot of fish that get put back. Therefore, barbless is the way because a
Mm.
barb, especially on like a 1/0 hook or bigger or smaller,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
you're looking at making a pretty big hole in their mouth. And I've
Yep.
like chronomid season on the lakes out here, and I'm sure in some smaller lakes in the mainland when the chronomid hatches like really full force and everyone's out fishing for them, you eventually start to get fish that have bruised lips
Yeah.
and just looking rough.
Yeah.
Maybe not as bad in the bigger lakes because there can be more distance in between the fish or more fish. I don't know, but um yeah. So I fish barbless all the time. Even when I went to Alberta where I could have, multiple flies on, I still just pinched my barb because I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
like, back. And I'd really, you'd really have to fish it side by side and like constantly for a year to know what works better. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Like,
have a
I've
hard time keeping a fish on. You lose fish either way.
a lot of my nymphs are barbless. Like most all of my nymphs are barbless, and then I'm slowly moving towards pinching and like tying on barbless for streamers.
Yeah.
And like, dude, I don't I don't know if there's a discernible difference of barbed versus barbless that I've lost. You know, like everybody's worried that fishing barbless, like you're gonna lose so many more fish, and it's like I think if you just keep that tension and keep them pinned just the same, I don't think there's going to be that much a difference of retention versus lost fish.
Yeah. Also, if you think about um the way like so let's say that's the hook point and then
Mhm.
another like which that would be the barb, you
Yeah.
have to get like the distance between the shank of the point and
Mhm.
the barb into their jaw, whereas if it's just a point like a needle,
Yeah.
the second it's pierced it's all the way to the back of the bend of the hook.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, if you don't get a crazy strong hook set, which you should, but if you don't get like that perfect hook set, you're still getting it all the way in.
Yeah.
So
That I don't know if you have a brand hook that you like tying on more than others, but uh, and this isn't like a endorsement or brand deal, but I do like fishing Firehole. Their jigs, like their jig hooks, are like pretty. Yeah, there you go. They're pretty like I think they're pretty strong, and they're bent at like a more than 90-degree turn. So like they do kind of lock themselves in.
mhm,
They're pierced. Like I can send you a photo after this. Um, I was fishing the Kenai 2 winters ago, I guess, and like the amount of fish that I landed on barbless of like substantial size and like good fights was just like crazy. I have photos of 25-inch trout that it's just like just barely skin on their lip that's pierced.
yep.
You know they hit the net and come unpinned, but they're still landed and fought just fine.
Yeah, I'm way more concerned about the angles that I hold my rod.
Yeah.
And whenever I have new people, which I'm sure I've mentioned here, it's why it's called angling,
Yep.
because you're using angles. So, I mean, maybe I can kind of describe it since this will be on YouTube. See if this kind of works out. But if you have your hook and you change the angle you're holding it at, it changes where things want to be pinned.
Mm-hmm.
Fish is facing upriver and you're upriver, it actually only takes a bit of a head turn. Whereas if you're now downriver from it, that whole thing is against it. If they shake their head, their mouth stays within it. So way more important to me than ever having a barb is keeping that angle. And then if the fish gets high in the water column and it's like at the surface, keeping that rod just
Yeah.
as low as possible. And if they're super low in the water, I'm not too concerned.
Mm-hmm.
I watch so many people lose fish due to setting the hook and either going and just holding and waiting and not stripping as fast as they can to get that rod to get the actual backbone of the rod into the fish. And then also the angles they hold it at. So on a raft, it's a little bit harder, especially if it's like down from you or like really close to the boat. Then your rod's got to kind of come up to
Yeah.
an end. But if you watch like tournament bass fishermen, they not only are tiring out the bass as they flip back and forth, but if that bass turns the way they're holding, they flip it around to the next side.
Exactly. Yep.
That hook pinned. So, yeah, you know, I worry way more about my angles than
Yeah. That's something that I've always known, but I've become a lot more conscious about over the last couple of years is like actively fighting a fish against current, like being able to know the angles to like pull their head out of the current and get them to slack water or like
yeah.
what way to hold the rod to fight them and all that. Um, a buddy that I had working with us last year at for the feds, he yeah, I mean it's yeah, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service working on like a salmon crew. Um, he was a super, super, super fishy dude,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and he like would fight fish in a way that kind of was it like kind of didn't make sense at first, but then once you like did it yourself, it started making sense. He would fight fish, and especially if it was a big fish. Um, if you constantly have a fish like pinned and you have side pressure working on that fish, it's going to be fighting against that side pressure, right?
Yeah.
So let's say you have downstream pressure on a fish that's sitting cross current and they're going to go run upriver. He would, as that fish was starting to run upriver, he'd flip the angle of pressure upriver as well, so the fish felt like essentially felt like it had become unhooked.
Yep.
And then the fish would like kind of chill out a little bit and like would move into that slack water,
Mm.
or into like less of a current, or kind of a current seam or break, and then you could gain a lot of line on that fish, and like you could kind of like trick that fish into thinking it was unhooked and thinking that pressure was at a different point, and like he would like fight these big fish like super quickly, and it was interesting. I've never thought about it, but
I like that. I have a couple of thoughts on that because when I do salmon fishing and it happens that you snag a salmon,
mhm.
they just freak out, what I would usually do would be rip off a bunch of line from my reel, um, put basically no pressure on them, rip a bunch of line out, bring my rod tip way behind me, grab the line, and just pull the fish in, either snapping my fly off
Yep.
or dragging that fish in as quickly as possible, and then
Yep.
unhooking it or just breaking off. Like I'd give no remorse. It would be like either you're breaking off or you're coming in right now and getting unhooked. Because I see a lot of people that just fight it and they're like, "Oh man, it's crazy," and I'm like, if a fish is fighting that hard and you can't turn it, give or take your rod and stuff like that, then it's probably foul hooked.
Yeah. And like you can, so like flipping for sockeye up here, like it's called flossing. I don't know if you guys do it down there for pinks or chum or whatever.
You're not supposed to. Well, I guess we can, but
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to because I don't like it in terms of that's not my style, I guess.
You end up snagging fish like even when you don't try to. Um, but like the amount of like you can tell immediately if it's hooked in the face or not, because if you hit it in the mouth, you have so much leverage on it, you can pull it right out of the current.
Yeah.
And like if you hook it in like the tail or the like dorsal or whatever, there's so much more resistance, and I'll straight grab my reel
Hmm.
and just point my rod right at the fish, and I'll just yank my whole rod and reel back
Yeah.
and put as much pressure, like you're saying, on that fish to just either rip that hook back out of the fin or whatever, or like straight pop my line,
Yeah.
because I don't want to make it fight even longer than it has to, or like go through the hassle of getting unhooked and like flopping on a bank or something.
Yeah. It's like, and I guess another kind of food for thought to what you're saying, how the guy would put less pressure on the fish, but upstream, so still have the hook in a good angle. Um, is when I would relieve the pressure and be ripping off, that fish would almost instantly just chill out
Oh yeah, yeah,
and just go back to what I was doing. So by the time I'm ready to actually just horse it in, I'd put my rod in between my legs, pointing out to the water, and then if it did pop out of my hand, my rod doesn't just go into the water or whatever crazy, or it's not on the floor next to me where someone could step or whatever could happen.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and we're all looking fresh over here. Just got a haircut. Proud of the haircut because I don't go for haircuts very often.
Yeah, you look good, kid.
um, yeah, so it's one of those things where, by the time you're actually realizing you're foul hooked, you've probably noticed there's no head shakes. Sometimes the tail, if you snag the tail, you'll
Mm,
think, holy, that's head shakes. But once again, if you can't even turn
yep,
the fish at all, especially if you're using an 8 weight on coho or even
yep,
spring salmon. Like when I fight spring salmon, I'm slightly ruthless. I'm like hard and fast. Like I can get a spring salmon in, mind you, they're not 30, 40 pound spring salmon, but I can get one in very quick, just as quick.
now when you say spring salmon, what
Oh,
species?
king salmon. Sorry,
Oh, okay, gotcha.
that's
Yep.
what we call them down here. I don't know why. Uh,
Okay.
Yeah. So the steelhead are a bit different where I'm not as willing to like horse them in because I'm scared of losing it.
Yep.
If I've already caught a few salmon, then I'm like the next one's coming in fast.
Yeah. I think for me it also goes down to like rainbow and steelhead and brown trout and all that. Like they have they have the ability to regain their energy and regain their fat store, and like they're not coming up to die, right?
Yeah.
As like a king or a coho, pink, chum, whatever you're fighting, once they hit freshwater, they're on limited time. They're on borrowed time, right? So they only have, let's say, when they hit freshwater, 100% fat store or energy, and they're only eating against that their entire way upriver. So if you do, like, let's say you foul hook a fish and you fight it out for 20 minutes before you get into the shore, but it's like so depleted in energy, it like it can't regain that, right?
Yeah.
It can't go back to like, oh, let me feed and gain some more energy or whatever to then keep swimming upriver. Like it's a finite resource once it hits that fresh water. And like I don't wanna deplete that more than I have to,
100%. That's a really good way of putting it because I've basically known that, but never thought of it in that exact term. But yeah, exactly. Like, their mortality rate goes up dramatically higher than, a trout or anything. But that being said, any of these fish that we're trying to catch, your goal is to get it in as quickly as possible because
Yeah, exactly.
not you don't want to linger it on when people are like, "Oh yeah, I fought this fish for an hour." I'm like, "That's crazy!" Like
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah,
that fish probably didn't survive.
yeah, I should say, like, I'm never gonna fight a fish just to fight a fish and like play it out for, an hour or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna fight it ethically and quickly.
Hmm.
Salmon, I'm a little more brutal on them. Like, I'll reef on them a little bit more. I'd rather bust off on a salmon and then continue to still be able to spawn
Yeah.
than get it to shore, unhook it, and like have it waste that 5% more energy that it might need to, fight and spawn later on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
100%. Talking about salmon, this um, I do it on a jig style, but I've been streamer fishing it.
yeah,
And it's just been super effective. But last year, this was a really effective fly for me for salmon fry. Because, there's I call them Alvins. I know it's not exactly Alvin, but how is
I mean,
it?
I've always called him Alvin.
Yeah, Alvin. Is it Alvin? I haven't read it. I just have heard it. Some
Yeah,
people I've heard say it a little bit different. So I'm like, I don't even know if I'm saying it right. But I think Alvin and the chipmunk. Or chipmunks. So that's how I've always remembered it. So Alvin it is, but I'm pretty sure it's Alvin, just not 100% sure. So if anyone wants to laugh at me, go for it. Um, but this is like the easiest tie. It's 3 materials. It takes no effort, but you start your jig hook the normal way. If you're Euroing it, then it's a heavier bead. If you're not Euroing it, it's still a heavy bead because you want to get it down and fish it quick. So I use like either a 3.5 or a 4.5
yeah,
bead and like a size 10 jig hook. I really, really like these Hanek competition jig hooks. They're the H45XH, but they're like higher, blanking. The wire gauge is thicker.
yep, yep.
It does have a barb, so you got to pinch that, but then it's like chemically sharpened and blah blah blah. But I have ripped these jigs off of rocks and not had the jig hook. Like nothing's changed.
And you're fishing those for browns and rainbows, or what are you fishing them for?
Yeah, browns and rainbows. Um,
I started tying. I saw there was like a. It kind of went viral. I don't know where it originally started from, but it was a jig hook with it was almost like a balanced leech, almost
hmm,
jig hook with like a nail on it, and then a really small dumbbell. Um, and then so it was jig hook, nail, and dumbbell, and then off the bottom it was a Poochie bead, the PUCCI brand, and it was like a 3 mil. It was either a 2 or a 3 millimeter orange bead that I looped on with mono, um, and then put some like crystal chenille like on the bottom, kind of like what yours looks like,
hmm.
and then over top it was just like one piece of uh, like an olive chenille, and so it looked like they look really good. I haven't fished them yet, but I tied up quite a few. I can send you the photo of them.
Yeah, please do. I like being a lot of my flies get tossed out and then lost almost instantaneously until the guests get better, or even if it's me, I lose flies because I usually fish them deep, especially when it's cold. um but yeah, these alvins, or these, I guess this is the stage after an alvin. So I do my alvins pretty similar, but then an orange bead, um
Hmm.
just like dubbing, white dubbing.
Yeah.
I love putting a little piece of red marabou so it looks like the gills. But this one, and then I put deer hair for this one, so it kind of pushes water. But the deer hair and everything, when this is in the water, it just like strains out tight. Um, if the fry are like really small, I won't put as much deer hair, or
Okay.
rip
Yeah.
it out when I'm like actually about to start fishing, or just let the fish do it because I haven't seen a dramatic change. But yesterday, because yeah, we were supposed to record yesterday, but I was exhausted. I went out to the river with my friends. It was one of my buddy's birthdays recently, so I took him on a birthday float, and we just ripped streamers. And he's new to fly fishing, so he was Euroing, but I made him Euro streamers all day, little streamers and stuff. And yeah, the Alvins were working great, but I got a couple of really nice fish on this fly. And then last year I destroyed with this fly. It was super awesome, and you can just fish it like I said. You can Euro it since it's on a jig hook, but you can also. Oh yeah, yeah, that looks good. I
Yeah.
like that chenille stuff where you burn the ends.
Mhm. Yep.
I got some of that. I also use that for case caddis. That stuff. My
Oh,
buddy,
yeah. Yep. And as like a peeping caddis.
yeah, just like this. Not chenille because that's what it is. Chartreuse,
Yeah.
chartreuse color, just like a little.
And then you put like a little dot of black on the end of it.
Yeah, my one buddy went really hard with them, and I've seen this before on Instagram. But you take like the case to make the case caddis, and then you put glue after you've kind of dubbed it, and you can put rocks like sand. If you get the
Yep.
gravel from your river, you can kind of like dry it out and then put rocks on it, so it looks like a full-on case caddis with the little pupa sticking out.
What I found one time at a fly store, it was essentially the same thing, but there were stacked deer hair, and then there was stacked like it was the thicker rubber that you would use on like a thicker rubber legs, like stacked really close and then trimmed into a circle. So it was like a modeled like case, but of like rubber like stacked legs.
Oh,
Doing a really bad job of explaining it, but it looked super 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 good.
yeah.
Um, I don't have the flies anymore. I don't know what river owns them now, but
Yeah, nymphs. Nymphs. Yeah, it's I don't know, I kind of like streamer fishing is like super cool. Our river's maybe not the craziest streamer
mhm.
river out there. I'm sure there's some really good ones, but it's something I want to introduce more and more. And definitely as it warms up, I veer away from the Euroing for a couple of reasons. One, I do actually like teaching casting. I do actually like watching people. Like, we can't use indicators or bobbers in whatever you want to call them in the fly only, so I don't get experience. Yeah, I know, eh? They just, we're in BC, they challenge us on everything.
Now, would you be able to? Not saying that you would do it. Would you be able to like get around that by doing like a hopper dropper, but cutting the hook on the hopper?
No, because then it's considered an indicator.
Okay, all right, it would still be considered an indicator then, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've thought of that, and it probably is a loophole you could potentially. I wouldn't want to have it on and have a
Yeah.
game warden walk up.
Yeah.
That to me would be, you know,
Now, is there a reason you can't use like strike indicators and fly only waters out there? that you know of, or is it just kind of one of those things?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. I think it's the challenge. I think because we don't have like an insane population of trout, which we do have really good population of trout, but I think back in the day when it was kind of made, maybe it was a snubby thing, like, oh, we don't use this or we don't do that. Or
I mean, like, yeah, using indicators is definitely not traditional fly fishing.
no, no, and if we go, yeah, exactly. So I don't really know, but I grew up basically. My fly fishing history on it is that uh,
Hmm.
is not using indicators or only using a single hook. So like when I went out to Alberta and I was streamer fishing and I had a big streamer with a which this was funny to me because I didn't think it would be like this, but a big streamer with a leech chasing the big streamer, which was backwards in my mind.
Yep.
Now I realize that big streamer is partly like, hey, I'm here.
Yep.
And the little thing is like, oh, I'm just a little leech, and then the fish is like, boom, on it.
Yep.
So when I originally, like the first day and I was streamer fishing, I got one fish on the streamer and I had it set up so it was my small fly, then the big fly, because in my mind, I'm like, that leech is getting chased.
Yep.
And then I switched it around, and basically my big fly was just something god awfully flashy,
Yep.
a black leech or a white leech, and the numbers increased. So
Yeah, it's like an attractor fly at that point, just trying to get their attention.
yeah, so it was a cool experience because never going, and I've mentioned it, but I really did think that I would get way more snags due to having two hooks, and it really was not the case. So I was very pleased by that, and it was a lot of fun. So yeah, just used to not using it. Um, so for me, it's kind of just another day at the river. But now that I've done it and I'm fishing it, I'm like, oh man, a hopper dropper would be so sick right now.
Yeah.
Or even like throwing two dry flies on, which I did in Alberta.
Yep.
This you're not 100% sure what they're feeding on. You do something massive and something small, and
Yep.
um, I did have one streamer set up get nailed by two fish, which
Yep.
was
That's always fun.
which was ridiculous because then like one's going this. It was hilarious. Um,
Like in Maine, where I moved from before I came out to Alaska, you're allowed to use three hooks at a time on fly only water.
okay,
So whether that's like a hopper and two midges, or three, or like a stone and then like a midge and another midge or something, however you want to do it. Um, Super effective, and like you can pattern fish super quickly because you're fishing three flies at once, right? So you can figure out what they're feeding on super quickly. That being said, you lose a lot of flies. Like if that point fly gets snagged, then you're losing all three flies essentially.
yeah,
But yeah, I've definitely had more than one fish hit at the same time, and yeah,
it's just a funny experience.
it's super fun though.
If you've never experienced it, you're just like, oh my god, you lose your mind. Um, yeah, it's a double header for one person. It's kind of wild.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was a really cool experience going from never being able to all of a sudden I'm allowed to do this. And
but I feel like fishing one fly at a time, especially like one nymph at a time. I feel like that makes you a lot better of a fisherman though.
that
Like
I'd like to say that about myself, but I haven't caught a steelhead off this season, so we'll see. No, it's a different ball game. Yeah,
yeah,
it makes you perceptive. I guess like I change my flies a lot quicker
mm,
than I think I would. Hard to say, but
I,
If
I think it all.
if I could just leave two flies on and one be the one always working, I'd still leave the other one and sometimes get fish there. But yeah, it
I think
makes
it makes you fish water more effectively though too. Like with two flies, not saying that you're out there kind of just casting them willy nilly, but like with one fly, you're wanting to make sure that's presented
mhm.
like so much more perfectly, or like so much more like naturally.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. So I think like it does kind of make you a little bit better. Especially seeing that you have to like, parse apart what you're gonna throw and like what you think is gonna work and all that.
Yeah, and I've noticed that, and obviously people say this all the time, that a one well placed fly is better than 1,000 casts.
Hmm.
If you're just going out there and you have no idea where you're casting to, and then you're just bombing flies out there, smacking the water constantly, no idea what's going on. You're spooking fish.
Yep.
But it was something that I noticed, like my buddy, he was doing a really good job and he's definitely getting the hang of Euroing. And the next thing I'm going to be teaching him is streamer fishing. And he just loves fly fishing altogether. That's how I am. I love every aspect of it, from beach fishing to dry fly to Euroing. Uh,
Hmm.
Euroing, I'm getting a little less like, I know I can do it and I know
Yeah.
I'll get fish. So I'm more like, I wonder if I can get it on this streamer, or I want to see something happen more so. Willing to catch less fish to see something the way I want to see it.
Yep.
But watching him, we were anchored up in this one spot and he was casting and casting. And I was like, you got to hit like that closer seam. Like, you see where follow the water. And he was like, kept kind of missing it or getting in there, but then kind of pulling his arm over or doing some stuff. And I was like, can I show you? And I flipped it out there, ran it through, fish on.
Yep.
His 8 cast to my 1 cast made a huge difference.
Yep.
So, yeah, and he was like, "Holy shit, you're a legend!" And I was like, "I just got it in that one spot I wanted you to get it in, because that fish was only going to see that fly the way it wanted to see it if it landed in that seam and
Yeah.
it dropped down. Everywhere else, it was a bit of like
Turbulence and all that. Yeah.
and stuff. Yeah, exactly. So I knew that it wouldn't happen unless it could sink down quickly. And we weren't even using a massive bead, which would have been the next step, if we weren't catching that fish.
Yeah, I've definitely been in that same instance, and like I always hate when it happens because like I'm always with somebody who might be newer to fly fishing, or is just struggling. I'm like this is a good hole. I'm gonna let you have like first dibs at it, whatever, right?
Mm.
And then fishing it and like not hitting the seam properly. I'm like, here, this is how you do it. And then yeah, it's that first flip, and then you hit that nice fish out of the hole, and then you're always like, son of a bitch, like I didn't want to catch this fish. Like I wanted you to do it.
Yeah. I
You
wanted
know?
the fish to be caught, but I didn't want you. Yeah. That was one thing. Like, I remember I told the guide I worked for, I was like, yeah, clients let me fish a little bit today. And he was like, that's dangerous territory right there. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, what if you catch the biggest fish of the day?
Yep.
And I was like, ooh, that's
Yep.
a good point. He was like, if you catch the biggest fish of the day, they're not going home being like, oh man, that guy, like the way he, like, they're like, that fucking guide. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. So like at that point, you almost gotta like you gotta purposely, miss the good water when you're fishing with them.
Yeah. So
You-
there's
you-
only been one client that I've fished with, or that I fished after that, and she was just a legend at that day. Like, her casting was beautiful. The way
Mhm.
it ended, the way it was dry fly fishing all day, which was not normal for the Cowgin River. We nymphed one fish up because it wouldn't come up, and I could see the brown, and I was like, "Okay, let's just nymph them up, but she caught like multiple rainbows that were like 20, 22 inch,
Eh,
caught one that was like 20. And there's just this one area and she's fishing and catching fish after fish, and she's like, you take one, like, this is what you love, like, you gotta fish it. And I was like, no, what if I catch the big one? And she's like, you can't beat me. I was like,
Oh,
so that was the one since then. But yeah, after that,
did you beat her?
no. And I was honestly like, right as I was swinging and like it got grabbed, and I was like, oh, it's a good fish. It was just like a football
Oh, okay, yeah,
thick fish. But yeah, she caught the multiple biggers. She's also an experienced angler, and I think that would be a difference as well.
yeah.
I did catch the big fish, but that's, yeah, now it's out of my system. I don't need to fish when I have guests out. I have had a couple of guests be like, hey, just so you know, um, we really would be fine if you wanted to fish a run. And I've been like, it's okay. I really want to see you guys get the fish, because
Yeah.
really it's the experience you're selling. So if you can help someone catch a fish, it,
So one of my really good buddies, he and I don't know if I said this last time I was on the podcast or what, but he is a phenomenal guide down in Florida. And I was talking to him about it, and he and his client, the day that they went out, caught an almost world record fish. And like it was his client caught it, but he was on the boat, like guiding him, obviously. And he was saying like, and this goes for like all instances too. It's like you as a guide are like you can't guide and be a bad fisherman for all intents and purposes, right? You know how to fish, you know where the fish are lying, you know how you need to present it, you know what fly to use, all that stuff. So when you have a client out and like you take them to the spot and you're like, I know it's going to be in this run, it'll be in this soft water eddy behind that rock, right? I know that there'll be a fish hold in there. I know that the fly needs to be presented there, X, Y, and Z way. And by being able to get a non-experienced client on that fish, it's like you would have caught that fish. So like any fish that the client catches is like kind of also your fish, because like you made it happen almost, if that makes any sense.
yeah,
So like, yeah, it's like that you would have caught that fish. You know that everything would have been great and you would have had a banner day. The fact that, your client caught 10 fish is like that's just a testament to like who you are as a fisherman and as a teacher, that you're able to then put a potential novice on, fish like that,
yeah, 100%. It's cool. It's really cool taking someone that has, you know, never done it before, and train them up to the point where they're into fish.
Hmm.
If someone's really not doing good at the beginning and they're really stuck on, let's say it's the casting or the mending, or holding their rod up if they're euroing or whatever they're doing, um, I don't move as quickly down the river at that point, because especially in my system it's not super long. And the fly only, or like the section we go to from the lake down to the takeout, is like, I think it's like 6 or 7 kilometers. I could be wrong, but it's not massive.
Yep.
So you can definitely make a full day just in half of that.
Yeah.
And that first half, let's say, is more abundant with fish, with
Okay. Yep.
rainbows, and then the browns are maybe a little bit more abundant, or the bigger ones are down lower kind of thing. So if they can't get it at the beginning and you blow through it too fast, by the time they get it, there's less fish for them to
Yeah.
potentially.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'll work harder with them up higher, and I'll tell them, I'll be like, hey, I'm going to move real slow here. We're just going to work through this water. Um, you know, you, but if we move too fast, we're just not going to see as many fish today.
Yeah.
Um, but that is also a reason I love 2 days. If you're learning anything, really, 2 days is man.
Mhm.
If you're, anything you're trying to learn that's new, having multiple days for it. If you're going to learn surfing, don't have a half day.
Oh yeah.
You're going to stress yourself out. Have a few days, if not like a week.
Now, now, do you also? So the area that you're fishing is fly only, yeah?
Yeah, mostly. There is like so. The lake to the 70.2 mile, which is kind of that halfway mark for the beginning.
Mhm.
That's fly only, and
Okay.
then the next section is gear as well.
So do you bring a gear rod with you just in like, let's say you have a client come out who's like just can't pick it up. Do you have like
No,
a backup just in case?
no, never. I've never fished more than maybe 8 toss of a pinreel in a river. I wouldn't
Oh,
even really know how to, aside from like I would, but I've never done it.
okay.
Never tossed a spoon. I understand how it would work. You'd cast
Yeah.
the spoon at a certain angle, and there's probably a certain angle that would work best, and you'd retrieve the spoon. Uh,
Yeah.
just doesn't interest me.
Yeah. I just didn't know if you had like a fallback to like.
No, you're going to get it. It's Euroing, right? So I always have a Euro rod on the boat. If you
Gotcha.
pick up Euro,
Gotcha.
maybe fishing's not for you. You know what I mean? No, I haven't had any clients not catch fish.
Oh, okay. Sweet.
One day where it was a half day and there was a crazy wind day,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like vicious to the point where like the Euro line just would get sucked out of the water because it was that intense. I
Yeah.
was like panicking in my mind. I kept my cool, but I was panicking in my head. I was like, this is scary right now. Like
Yeah.
trees crack as
It's
they
like what
sway.
taps on a river.
And that day, it was calm morning. I knew there was going to be wind, but sometimes like the wind on a river is different than in the valley per se. So sometimes a really windy day won't be that windy on the river.
Okay. Yeah.
It kind of like it will be, but I don't know. I've just noticed that like sometimes I'll see like high wind and I'll get on the river and it won't be as bad as I was expecting. So I kind of was hoping for that. But it was one day where I was doing half that section and I was dropping them off at a lodge, the Cowgin River Lodge, which is the lodge that we like to work with. They sometimes get clients for us, kind of deal. So they have a pullout, which is halfway
Okay.
in that stretch, that first stretch.
Yeah.
Um, so I had a half day with them, so I was able to fish that upper section.
Mhm.
And they hooked a few, but they didn't actually land them.
Oh, okay. All right. So they still touched fish, though.
They still touched fish, but they didn't actually get in the net, which I was kind of like stressing about. But then hindsight, I was like, man, that day, like, yeah, I probably would have landed maybe a couple, but it was so windy.
But were they like understanding about like did
Yeah,
they?
they were understanding. They were seasoned fishermen, seasoned anglers, so
Okay.
they knew what they were up against when the wind started getting up, and like there's a few times they were like, "Should we go?" But anyways, back to the story was I was dropping them off there, and I was floating all the way down to my truck,
Okay.
and I didn't even fish. I just got on the raft and just freaking went because
True, yeah.
I want off this river right now.
Damn.
Saw 2 trees fall in the forest, and I was like, all I don't want. Yeah, sure, we'll run with it. All I don't want is for a tree to fall in front of me and block my way and not have time, or a tree to be following me behind some
Yeah.
shit. So
Yeah.
yeah. And
But
it was
how wide is the
like
river that you're
big
fishing?
branches are in the river, like shit was coming down on me, and I was like not happy. I
Yeah.
don't give up easily, so that was the only time I've ever. No, maybe there's been other times with wind. Wind is one of those things, when you're going down a river on a raft and you can't just pop out and like call it a day at any,
Mhm.
and there's wind. It's a bit of a scary thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was an interesting day. They did hook into a few, but they couldn't land it. But even the raft, when I would anchor up, which normally the raft will hold pretty damn good, especially with my oars. I got oar locks,
Yeah.
so my oars sit, straight in the water,
Yeah.
and that keeps me pretty pinned and steady.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of flow back and forth, but that day it was like pushing me, so like they couldn't hold a straight line.
Oh shit. Okay.
It was intense. So that's the only time I didn't have clients hit it. But also a half day guiding is kind of,
Kind of silly.
yeah. I mean, if that's all you got time for, and you're an avid angler and you're super excited to be on that piece of water and you're catching a flight or something, I totally
Yeah.
get it. But
Yeah.
and
I
the
mean,
other
like,
funny thing is they did ask, like, hey, well, if you want to keep going, even though it was like not great conditions, they're like, we'd be finding, because I told them I had to go down there, they're like, oh, we'll come down with you and fish. And I was like, you paid for a half day, like,
yeah.
are you paying for a full day now? And
Yeah.
for a full day in this, it's kind of
Yeah.
like,
Exactly. Yeah.
but
I mean, like any time on the water is good time on the water, but sometimes it's not a productive amount of time on the water.
yeah. Yeah,
So
100%. And there's not many scenarios that will get me off the river, but that day with the wind, I was like,
yeah.
I really wish I didn't have my truck down there. Mind you, I made it out alive. I'm here.
Yep.
Nothing
Yeah.
happened. Nothing bad happened. But that's
Yeah. I
the thing on a river is when you're drifting, it's all like I've been in really high water on my watermaster where I should have not been on that water, and
yeah.
it's totally fine. Everything you're going with the flow of the water. It doesn't even seem that fast. You're moving faster than normal, but it's like fine until it's not. Then it's not
Mhm.
okay at all. You know,
Yeah.
that's rafting. So like it's always fine. Whitewater rafters, they're going down this crazy shit, doing like spins under the water and stuff, popping out, and it's all fine until it's not fine, and then it's
But also, like, you got to think, like, the craft that you choose is going to be optimal in only a certain amount of like instances. Like, you're not going to take a 14-foot raft down class, 4 rapids where you'll take like a whitewater dagger down that, right? Like, your raft is made for only, you know, is optimal for only certain waters.
yeah.
Like, I took,
Especially with like being higher up in chairs where you're, yeah.
yeah, so like I took granted it was my first time like floating, or my first time like taking it out. I have like a single man cataract. It's like I think it's like 9 feet long or something like that. And it's just like a two pontoons with a seat in the middle. Uh you can like you put your feet up on like kind of stirrups almost, and like you could stand up if you want to stop, but it's got two paddles,
Mm,
or two oars, I should say. Man, I took that out on the river with a buddy the first time I used it. He was in his, I think he had like a 12-foot little like raft, and then I had my cataract. And little did we know, like, we didn't look at the flow gauge beforehand. We floated it at like the river we floated, it was flowing at 2,800 CFS at that point, and normal like fishing stage is anywhere from 8 to like 1,200 CFS.
Jeez. Yeah. Move
It,
it.
so it was like way higher than we should have ever even thought about fishing it, and I got locked right into a sweeper. Like I was trying to, I like spun my raft, and I was trying to like back out, and the oars were a little short, so they skipped off the water a couple times because I was like trying to go fast and panicking a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't able to clear this sweeper that I was like going right into. I got pinned right into it, and my downstream oar hit that log, popped out of the oar lock, and just never to be seen again. And then I'm like putting all of my body weight over the downstream pontoon because the water is coming down, like trying to flip me trying to flip me under, right?
Mm-hmm.
And eventually my buddy got down below the log, he hopped out, and we flipped my cataract over the log. Like we like hooked a strap to the upstream pontoon and like completely rolled it over. And thankfully his raft was big enough for both of us where we just floated down and with mine like in tow. But man, like it definitely taught me that there's certain times you shouldn't take certain craft on the water, and like it made me realize the power of water real quick. Like it put that fear back in my eye. Like I was going down, I didn't have a life jacket on. I had it with me, but I wasn't wearing it. And like the second I hit that log, I was like, "Oh shit!" And I threw it on like immediately, and like it was sketchy for sure. But
Yeah. I had the same experience where like my water master, uh, it V'd it split, and the left side was quite fast and the right side was quite mellow, and I was
mm,
like, oh, right side for sure, like no need to go down that crazy shit. But there was a log jam, but there was plenty of room to get around it,
yeah,
and I was new to rafting, and by the time I was getting closer to it, it went from being, 15 feet deep to being like a foot or half a foot
oh shit,
fast. Like did not look fast, but it was fast.
dude, that fast smooth water is
Mhm.
so dangerous.
I couldn't dig my oars. It was a little water master. I couldn't
Mm,
turn sideways to like start pulling myself out.
yep,
And so too late. I was in it. My friend was behind me. I think it might have been one of his first drifts, if not his first drift. And so he moved over enough and was able to pass it. Um, but then he went on the beach and just watched me basically almost die.
yeah,
It was not a log jam. I could climb off,
yeah,
but it was still a sketchy, like
yeah,
inches everywhere. And I ended up throwing my shit over top when I like
yeah.
finally got it. I know I've talked about that one before. That's something I got to work on, is not talking about the same stories on my podcast.
I mean, I've never heard it, but I mean, I haven't listened to every
I
episode.
feel like some of the people, it's just my own thoughts in my brain, because I'm always trying to, I want to improve the podcast for listeners for sure, and I think a lot about it. So that's one thing I think of, is like, don't repeat too many of the same stories. But then again, I haven't been fishing for that, insane amount of time, so it's not like I have a billion stories.
But I mean, like that being said, there's multiple lessons that can be taken out of each story for different reasons too. So
Yeah, and then if, I guess, if there's new listeners and they might have not heard it, so all these things. But yeah,
I don't know. Moral of the story,
myself constantly. Uh,
I don't know, but
recently with
moral
the
of the story is
everyone knows how many steelhead I hooked last season and how many I haven't landed this season and how many I hooked this season. So I apologize for that, but this is real life shit happening. This is me living it, and I do it weekly. So it just like
Yeah.
And with a new person, if I've never talked to them and they ask me a question, I'm not going to be like, I've talked about that, I'm not answering you. So it's kind of is what it is. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, it's like I said, it's all good on the river until it's not. So not wading out too deep, especially if it's fast moving water, or if there's a drop off and you might not know it. If it's super murky, man, I don't go past like
Knee deep.
not even knee deep, because
Oh,
unless I really know the spot and I'm confident that I'm fine.
or if it's like super calm or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely scenarios where it's like it's not worth it. It's fishing. You know,
Yeah.
you're just out there to have a good time, and the only way you can keep having a good time is if you're still alive for it. So,
True.
yeah, I take my life jacket very seriously. There are times where I'll take it off and not worry so much, but
And like I floated with a friend over the summer on her raft, and she's like, "Yeah, do you have like a life jacket with you?" And I brought one with. Um, but then it was like a inflatable.
okay,
Um, but then she had like an actual a, like a class 4 PFD, the ones that aren't inflatable or whatever.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Not like the big bulky orange ones, but just like a normal life jacket.
okay,
Um, and she was like, "Yeah, like use this instead or whatever." And I was like, "Oh, like yeah, like we just have to have them on the raft with us, right? Like we don't have to wear them." And I was like, for whatever reason, I was like being stupid and thinking like, "Oh, I don't want to look like an idiot wearing a life jacket. Like, who am I?" You know? And it's like, it doesn't matter if you look like a goon or not. Like, your life might be saved by it, and like,
yeah,
if you die looking quote unquote fashionable versus live like a goon,
yeah.
what's better? You know?
Yeah, your parents aren't going to be there like, well, he looked good while he went out. I was like, why wasn't he wearing it? And the thing, like with guests, I like them wearing it. Obviously,
Mhm.
guests have been like, "Oh, I don't like wearing it," and I'm like, "Look, it's on my raft. I have to deal with you. Any situation." And I've grown confidence on this, like telling people, being more stern, like, no, this is how we're doing it. When I first started guiding, I didn't have that kind of confidence. I was definitely a little more like, you know,
Yeah.
I have a word for it, but I don't know if I should say.
A pushover, if you will.
Sure, we'll go pushover. That's the word I was thinking. Um, but now it's like, I've had a couple people go in the water because they weren't listening and I wasn't stern on it. Uh,
Yeah.
well, actually, both those people, they were behind me. They're sitting behind me and I didn't see them while I was trying to deal around stuff or whatever it may be. So, yeah, now it's like, hey, just so we're clear, I'm the captain. And that's what the guy that I work for told me. He's like, man, you're the one that's responsible for anything that goes on down there.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't just like allow someone to do what they want because you don't want to be rude. And if that person, blah, 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 he's got my back. So it's, yeah, I'm the captain, my choice, my rules. Uh,
Yep.
During the summer, you know, I'm not so concerned. Like when I was in Cranbrook, we had our life jackets close by, but if you fell in the river, it's an enjoyable little swim. You know,
Yep.
you could literally stand up at basically any point
Yeah.
and walk out of the river. And
Yeah.
even if it wasn't, you're in like clothes. But if you're wearing waders and you get sucked into or you drop into the water, your waders are going to fill up. Most people don't know how to swim in waders. I've never had to swim in waders, but I've been told it's actually on your backstrokes.
Yep.
This, not forward, because then you'll suck in more water. So on your back,
Sense. Yeah.
going upstream, but just like you were on a raft. So if like water's,
Angled upstream, backing out. Yeah.
you know, so then I would be kind of on an angle trying to go upstream. So you're kind of just slowly moving over.
Yep.
Uh,
Exactly.
and that's another thing is like I would get out. I would get myself out of a situation if I ever fell in the water.
Yep.
I don't know how, but I'm surviving. And if I don't, I damn well tried hard. But
And like you said, it's different when you're in a river that's
calm.
and that you can stand up on. But like the Kenai, where like I do a lot of the floating that I do, there are areas that yeah, you could just stand up and you'd be fine. But then there's also areas that are like 15 to 25 feet deep. And it's like you fall into that and there's all sorts of like water features and like, you know, undertows and eddies and all that stuff. And it's like
Yeah.
and even at the end of the day, you fall into knee deep water, but you hit your head. Like life jackets are made to keep your head above water if
Yeah.
you do go down, right? So
And that's the scariest thing. We had a bit of a funny thing over the weekend. We were, well, I guess it was Friday 'cause today's Saturday, but so yesterday, but we were drifting and there was a branch, like a low hanging branch, and my buddy wasn't paying attention, so I like set it up so it tapped him in the head. And then my other buddy was rowing and there was a branch, same kind of scenario. But when it came up, this branch wasn't a soft branch, like it didn't move. And my one friend like pinned it and pushed it away, and then it smacked my buddy who rode us into it, and then like of course then it bounced back, and then it came and I blocked my face and it smacked me in my elbow. We all laughed, and then we're like, but shit, if that would have hit your head, we all got like slightly serious for a second.
yeah,
And laughed again, but it was like, oh yeah, that would have like that could have knocked someone out.
yeah.
Better not to go play with branches, I guess, but
It's like everything's funny until it's not, right?
yeah. And it was really funny, but it was also like a wake up of like, yeah,
Bit
okay.
of a sobering moment.
Next branch that comes by, we're avoiding. No need for it. My friend knew how to row, and he even mentioned it. He was like, "Yeah, that branch probably shouldn't have been messed with, but
Yeah, yeah,
boys will be boys, and we're all alive." So, but yeah, the safety on a river is a huge thing. When you're guiding or when you're with friends, whatever, don't try to look cool just to like
yeah.
look cool. I
So,
I like a life jacket when it's big water. It just
no, absolutely.
it peace of mind for me. And if my guide, like both the clients PDFs that they have or that I have for them, self inflate under a certain
Okay.
water.
Yeah.
Mine's a pole,
Okay. Yeah.
and I probably will eventually upgrade to the next one, but I just didn't want to cheap out for clients just because it was, $50
Yeah.
per one, but you just don't know with clients. I mean, how good's your swimming? How good's my swimming? How good's this other person? If it's a kid, I'm, even that more cautious with. I tell people to hold on even when I know it's not big water. It's not like we're going out in class 4, but if it's choppy, I'm like, hey, just grab onto your seat. I am getting another stand up bar.
Oh, okay. Sweet.
I have one for the back now for streamer fishing.
Hmm.
Thing I've noticed is when I get on my raft, I have a bar to hold on to.
Yeah.
Also for older people, that's a big thing, a big reason why. So it's almost not even for streamer fishing. I got the bars, but of course that's a beautiful
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
thing as well. I mean, when someone's rowing my raft, I can stand no problem, even if it's choppy or even if they twist me because I kind of bend my knees and let my knees uh,
Hmm.
rest on the front of the raft. So worst comes to worst, I just collapse down into the raft.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to teach someone how to be balanced. I haven't
Yeah.
seen, not that
Yeah.
I can ride. I used to be able to ride. It's been a long time, but I could ride a unicycle, so I got some balance.
Can
I can also juggle really well. Not,
you?
I used to be able to do like really well. I can still juggle like pins and
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
knives. I've done fire.
Oh, sweet.
yeah, so my hand-eye coordination's like quite there. My balance is really there, so I feel very good on water. I've been
Yeah.
in the ocean my whole life, so I know I feel safe. But when I see other people and they wobble off of me just rowing, I'm like, can you please sit? Like,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah. So kind of, I'll change pace a little bit and I'll ask you. So, what's your summer looking like? Are you guiding, full bore this summer, or like what?
yes, I got couple months coming up here of guiding on my home river, and then um a month. Let's see, what is it? So April, May, I'll be like definitely guiding. If anyone wants to come down the river with me, that's a great time to book. As well for the actual fishing, like we are catching fish now, but it's
Mhm.
it's going to heat up with the temperatures. And
Yep.
bugs will come out, so that'll be great. And then I'll be going to Cranbrook um, July. So I'll be in Cranbrook the beginning of July all the way to the end of September, um, guiding on the St. Mary's, the Elk, and the Bull River.
Oh, hell yeah.
Cranbrook. So yeah, super excited. It's going to be a tough one being away from home and the little one for that long, but I'm this is just what I really want to be doing. Like I love taking people down the river, and um I got a straight calling for it. I just
Yeah.
can't wait to get back on the water guiding this season. I missed my season because when I got back from Cranbrook, um our river system was closed, and then it opened up November 15th, and November 18th I left for my honeymoon for a couple of weeks, and by the time I was back, it was basically, you know, air quotes, the end of the season, also
Yep.
starting to get cold, and most people don't really like to
Mhm.
go for the cold. So yeah, I pretty much, yeah, I haven't guided since Cranbrook.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's been a hot minute, which was nice in terms of being able to just fish steelhead for myself and
Yep.
enjoy the river for myself, but I miss it so much.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So yeah, I'll be in Cranbrook for 3 months, and I'm super excited for that. I think I'll be busier this year than I was last year, and then yeah, it's exciting. I'm super pumped to be with the people I'm with. Um, Everyone's like so helpful, and shout out the guide I work for, Ray. He's just given me the opportunity to do this, and to be guiding not only on this system, which I love, but then go get introduced to like some world class fly fishing out in Cranbrook is for my first year guiding was
Yep.
legendary. And then to be asked to come back and do it the full season was like pretty much a straight honor.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so very very excited for that. I'll probably
I'll be able to come down and fish with you.
You should, dude. That would be so cool. I'm
If
going
if I get a break from work, I'm gonna be like balls to the wall busy, but hopefully.
to call your work. Be like, hey,
Yeah.
let my man come fish. Give it a southern draw, so they're like, "Oh yeah, he's serious." um, yeah, it's going to be good. I'm really really pumped to go chase bulls again.
Yeah.
Days off, hopefully not too many days off, but all my days off will be chasing bulls, and or streamer fishing for cutties. Uh, and then after, I plan on going back to the Bow River because that is a system.
Yeah.
That's a system.
I've heard magical stories about the bow.
Man, I caught such nice fish there.
Yeah.
Like we got beautiful fish here, and every system you're used to the size, so whether it's massive for someone else or not, when you catch, if your system only has, if it's a small creek and it only has up to like 12-inch and you catch a 14, your mind explodes.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so for me, like a 20, 22-inch trout, that's whether it's brown or rainbow, I'm like, that's a big fish.
Yep.
And I know there's rainbows that get, bigger, and I know there's browns that get bigger. So when I went there and I was catching 20, 22, 24-inch rainbows, I think I
Yep.
had one that was a little bit bigger. I don't measure them, but you get the rough estimate when you fish enough. And then when I was there, I caught which we actually measured these two, a 28-inch brown, I believe it was. It might have been 26. Maybe my brain's foggy on that.
Regardless.
At that moment, I was like, "That's my biggest brown ever."
Oh yeah.
It was swinging at night. It was super cool, and then like worked the run again, and then caught a 31-inch brown
No shit.
at night. Like so sick. It was my buddy was like losing it. I was losing it. I was like, "This is so sick," and he like had the tape, and I was like,
Yep. Photo of that, dude.
got my double PB on that river now, so
Yeah.
yeah. Now I can't even express how much I want to go back there. If there was a system I were to go move to off the island, it would either be in Cranbrook or the Bow River. And I know that I just haven't explored enough to say other names, but you know, to go chase like if it would be so hard to give up steelhead for anything, but if I were to going for bulls, that's those
Yeah.
look so sick, and like that
Yeah.
experience would be so cool. But then the Bow River being able to swing for rainbows and browns all the time.
Yeah.
My buddy is out there, and he basically is capable of swinging all year round. There's maybe a slight time with depending how frozen the banks get and stuff that he might not be able to, but
Yeah, I mean, like the Kenai swings all year long. Like
yeah. See,
I'm going down tomorrow. I was down last weekend. I hit one rainbow. I'm going down tomorrow. Hopefully, hit one at least, and then
yeah,
yeah,
I like that. The Cowagin, I know I haven't spent enough time, like once again, 7 years or whatever it's been since I started fly fishing is not actually that long of a time.
hmm
I've spent a lot of hours, but I can, another 7 years from now, who knows where I'll be kind of deal. But yeah, I mean, I swing for steelhead, but last year and this year, I've been getting more other like browns and um, rainbows because I've been swinging more classic flies that are maybe a little more natural or not as massive tube fly like here I am
Yep.
kind of thing. So I've been swinging up other fish. So I believe there is more swinging that I can do on my home river here.
Yep.
So trout space, something I really want to get into. I keep saying it, I just need to go buy it, but money gets stretched thin when you got a whole family and expensive area to live in.
Yeah.
It's an island, so it's expensive, and then gas for me to travel up and all that. So there's limitations to how much I've been getting out fishing now, based off those two things. So yeah, I'm sure there's more swinging I could do on my days.
hmm
But yeah, trout spade is definitely something on there. And then streamer fishing. If I had to give up if I could only pick two types of fly fishing, um, and I had to give up everything, it would be swinging and streamer fishing. I love dry fly fishing, not knocking it. It's freaking sick, but watching a fish charge a streamer and you're just like stripping as hard as you can. It's gangster.
I mean, plus you can't really dry fly fish in the ocean either. So like you got to think that too.
No, I'm sure you could. I'm sure if like you spent your whole life and you
Yeah,
just never gave up on it, it would happen. But yeah, it's not like, oh yeah, I went dry fly fishing. Maybe poppers would you could tie into that, but
yeah.
it
Are poppers considered dries though?
yeah,
Like,
exactly. It's like a streamer, but yeah, I know what you mean, man. It's you don't have that ability to do like what you do. I'm sure like estuaries during the right time of the season, you could probably
eh,
runs. But no, it's not dry fly fishing like you're, you know,
yeah.
watching a hatch and all that. So yeah, I'm just captivated by spay casting. I do it because I love it, not because I'm catching fish.
Also, it's like it's pretty active, so it keeps you like it keeps your mind busy,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Like I don't think of the fish. Well, I do. I don't. I'm not like if I'm euroing and I've gone through a spot, I'm like,
yeah,
there's something that's got to give, and I'll throw on a new fly or be like maybe they're lower down there. But with swinging, it's like you start here and you swing through. You might change your fly once or twice, or maybe do the run and then go back up and change your fly, change your swing speed or something like that.
yeah.
But yeah, it's just so peaceful. But you know, I love laying out line. So like streamer fishing and dry fly fishing, you get a layout line.
Hmm.
You're kind of just plopping your fly in there and holding your arm up, and super effective. Great way to learn where fish lay. Great way to learn your bugs because you're very active in what's working. Even if you're missing the fish, you feel it, so you know you missed a fish.
Yep.
Whereas if you're a long leader or like if I'm going to throw on a bobber for myself to nymph,
Yeah.
that's the point. I'll just euro
Yep. Yeah.
dry dropper. That's a different story. But why throw on a bobber when you'll just euro? Maybe
Yeah.
for distance. I guess that would be the only thing is if I'm trying to really hit the distance. But then if I'm on a raft, I'll move over.
Yeah. True. Yeah. Like all. I haven't quite got fully into Euro yet. I still run a lot of indicators,
Yeah,
but like I'll double haul like an indicator rig out there. Like I'll double haul like a 35, 40 foot cast.
mend.
Yeah, yeah, and just like you throw a stack mend over, like
Yeah.
just rip out a bunch of line and just like throw stack mends and just like have it like shoot the same seam, and like you can't do that with Euro as easily.
Yeah, and I think the only thing I'm thinking of is
I'm
like
a bank
I've
fisherman.
been to
Like I don't
I've
raft.
been, I've been to the dark side, you know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like if you're like a pothead and then your buddy comes back a heroin addict. Not sorry if that relies to you, but or relates to you, but you know what I mean? Like it's just different realms. So like once you've been to the Euro and you're trying to go back to you know, I just don't. And the only time I like watching an indicator while I'm fly fishing is chronomids in a lake. I'll watch the shit out of that indicator if I'm,
Oh,
10, 15 feet. But then it's once again, for me in my brain, and since I wouldn't consider myself snobby with anything because I like it all, is if you're trying to do the best presentation to mimic that food source that's possible, then under an indicator with a chronomid is the best way to mimic a chronomid, or long lining it with like yeah, you know what I mean, like yeah, you can do the naked technique where you have a 25-30 foot leader,
mhm.
hard to toss around, so if it's a windy day you're
Yeah,
doing a sinking line straight down. But anything that you're doing, it has to mimic that bug. So you
yeah,
know
yeah,
and then for my home river, most of the time while we're fishing it and it's not dry fly season, it's fast moving water. So
yep,
getting an indicator rig to get that presentation takes a lot more time. But then I'm in fly only. I can't even use an indicator.
Yep. Okay.
I learned without an indicator. I caught fish with just a dry line and a long leader.
Yep.
I know how to do it. It is totally possible. And that's something I prefer doing when I'm out. Like when I was in Cranbrook and I was fishing by myself, and the dry fly fishing was tough. And I was like, I wonder if I could get one on on a nymph. I just would cut off the dry fly and throw on a nymph, and then
Yep.
just stack mend and get it down, and then wait for that line to twitch, and I just set, and then
Yep.
there's a whitefish. You know what I mean? Woo! I don't knock whitefish either, though. They're cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
I get why guides really don't like them, and I get why people don't really like them, because their mouth and they suck that nymph in, and it's so deep, and you're like, and then that fish is struggling, you're struggling, like it's a whole thing. But the fish itself is cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Especially like if you get like a good sized whitefish.
Yeah,
Dude, hell yeah.
it's hard.
Yeah.
You know, and I use a 3 and a 4 weight for trout.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll beef that up for browns during the winter just because of the heavy flow.
Yeah.
But any 4 weight will be able to do it if you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then for clients, 5 weight would be better probably, but I also just need to not spend so much money on fishing shit. So, we spend enough already.
Yeah.
I went to buy hooks, and I bought like a bunch of packs and some beads and tallied it up. Didn't buy any materials because I'm set on materials. I'm okay for now. And it came up to $150, and I was like, oh my God, that is so good. I feel so good about myself. I spent really small money here today, and I even said it to the shop owner, and he was like, yeah, you're really watching your spending these days. I don't see you very often. And when you come in, you seem to have like a list of what you're getting and you stick to it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing really good, man. But $50, that's, if you tell that to someone that throws worms, they're like, what? You spend how much on hooks? And I'm like, yeah. Like 8 packs of hooks and 3 things of beads, and I'm deep in it. But
like I think with fly tying, like the upfront cost is like pretty large because you got to buy all the materials, but then like you buy a pack of marabou and you have enough marabou for like 100 flies.
yeah,
Like you get rolls of tinsel or thread, and it's like you tie hundreds of flies with one roll of thread versus you know if you're out buying worms every time you go out fishing, it's like you're one worm per fish, right?
I tallied it up when I first got back into fishing. I'm pulling out my calculator. Say a pack of 18 worms, I think at the time was like $12.
Shit.
I was fishing basically every day. So let's just count it down to 4 to 5 days a week. And just for this math, we'll just go 4 days. So
Yeah.
I was buying at least 1 pack
Every day.
every day, sometimes 2. So let's just do 12. So let's say 1 pack a day times 4. And I did it for a full year, like hardcore on worms and power bait, but I mostly fished worms.
Yeah.
So yeah, that got really crazy. So yeah, 12,
So
12 times 4,
4 times 52.
4. I could have, yeah. So that's 1 month times 12. That's $2,304 I spent on worms, and it's probably more than that. That was,
Yikes.
yeah, and that's when I stopped fishing worms.
And that's just worms. That's not hooks and split shot or power bait or anything, right?
Yeah, and then I found fly fishing, and I was like, everyone says it like, oh, well, I'll just tie my own flies and save a ton. And now I have like $4,000 worth of fly tying material. Easy.
Yep.
I wouldn't even want to count it up, but I mean, if we just, that's $150 on hooks, and I have so many boxes.
Yeah, but
I'm not even the worst person out there.
potential to make all those flies,
Yeah.
like that $4,000 materials will last you usually quite a bit, you know?
Yeah. And there's the one thing that, like, whenever someone gets into fly tying and they ask me questions, I'm like, look here, okay? Don't just go out and buy a bunch of materials. You need to have a recipe for the flies you're tying. And because you're new to fly fishing, you also need to figure out what flies work.
Yep.
So buy them off of someone that ties. And if you don't have that, go to your shop and really sweet talk them and get some good flies to start off with. Fish them,
Yeah.
find out which ones you're confident on, then go buy those materials for
Yep.
the flies. Start there
Mm-hmm.
and stick to those for a season. Get good at tying those, learn your craft,
Yeah.
and start dipping. Because what I did, which is the most inefficient way, is I would look at one pack of Crystal Flash and I would buy 5
Yep.
different colors.
Yep.
And now I have 20 different colors of Crystal Flash that I fucking never use.
Yep.
Because I don't use Crystal Flash very often. And when I do use it, it's one strand out of it. And it's probably root beer and some of the lighter blue type ones. But even at that, now they brought out new materials that I needed to buy. Now I'm looking at like
That and like the worst is when you go into a fly shop and there's like a discount bin.
oh god.
And it's like a pack of, let's say marabou, right? It's like a pack of this like hot pink marabou or something that would typically cost $7-8 is now on sale for 250 or 350. You're like, well, shit, I'll use this at some point. I gotta buy it, and then you have it in your store of materials, and it's never been used, right? Like,
Yeah, it's a big like learning how to buy materials takes time.
mhm,
Anyone that I've ever taught how to fly fish, I've taught them how to get materials, how to get rods and such that won't cost you an arm and a leg. Because I'm like, hey, there's a Berkheimer, there's a Sage, but have you fished that long to appreciate that rod? Probably not. Don't get Sage. And then
that was the first time on the podcast was we shit on some companies together.
yeah, we did a little bit. Hey, if you're going to charge me that much money, you better freaking repair my rods quicker and make better rods. Damn it.
Yeah, we bonded over Echo and Lamson.
We did bond.
Yeah.
And that's what I like tell people. I'm like, look, you gotta think of it, especially for your reel. You gotta think about it.
Like,
you're just getting there. You go. There it is.
Reddington till I die, man.
Yeah. And Sage. Reddington owns Sage, right?
It's Sage, Reddington, and Airflow. No, Sage, Reddington, and Rio are Farbank outfitters.
Yeah. But then they're still ran separately. But Sage just, I think, or I don't know. I don't know the details.
It's like one head company, and then it's like the 3 little individual entities.
Got the hand tatties. Let's see them.
Yeah. The heads and tails. They're just starting to peel now, and yeah, it hurt like a bastard though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do not.
This won't see it, but yeah, he has a trout head and a trout tail on his hands.
Yeah, I do not recommend it to anybody out there. Palm tattoos hurt very much.
So much.
very bad.
Yeah. It's but yeah, back to like the brands, the I've bought in the Remix and the Lamson
Mhm.
liquid reels, and the only reason I bought them, aside from the reels actually being good, is they come with spare spools.
Yep.
Getting into lake fishing and you're brand new to it, chances are you're going to listen to this podcast, another podcast, watch some videos, and the guy's going to say, like, oh, well, I got my floating, my intermediate, my
Mm.
my medium sink, my fast sink, my type 7, 4, 5. I just did that in a shit order, so don't mark my words. But yeah, like a type 3, type 5, and a type 7, and some people go even more than that. So it's like, are you going to go buy each of those reels, or would you rather just start with one reel that has 3 spools, and you could put, a type 7, your intermediate, and your floating line, and you're good for a couple of years of learning?
Yeah, what I did was, like, one of the first reels I bought actually, the first combo I bought, it was from a guy off of Craigslist. It's like I don't know if you guys have something similar to it in Canada. It's like it was the predecessor to Facebook Marketplace, where it was like if somebody was trying to sell something online, they posted it to Craigslist.
Yeah, we do
Uh,
Craigslist as well.
okay, gotcha. Yeah, I didn't know
Yeah,
if you guys had it, but it was a TFO BVK 9 foot 5 weight, and which is a piss missile of a rod. I love it. And a Reddington Rise, and then they started like it was kind of towards the end of the Reddington. It was the original Reddington Rise. Like there's the new Reddington Rise. Actually, I have them right here.
yeah. Whip 'em- when in doubt, whip them out. That's what my midwife told my wife, and I listened to those words.
This was the OG Rise, and then now like this is the new Rise, right? Like
Yeah, I,
this is the old one. This is the newer one.
yeah,
Um, they were like starting to like not make these or produce them as many or as much. So all like the fly shops I'd go to would all have like the spare spools on sale for like pretty cheap.
yeah.
Like instead of like 80 or $90, they were like on sale for like $50. So I was able to get spare spools for this
Mhm.
for like pretty cheap. But like, yeah, it's the same thing. Like those Lamsons, they come in like 3 packs of like the reel and then 2 spare spools.
Yeah.
And yeah, so with my with mine, I put on a sink tip and a full sink. Like like I'm a big color guy. So like they're all different colors for different applications, right?
Gotta be.
But man, I haven't used this reel in so fucking long. But, yeah, that's the benefit I see to it at least.
One
But,
thing too I experienced with buying a reel was I bought a reel on discount because it was going out,
mhm.
was never able to get more spools for it because it was discontinued and no one really had them in stores, and then no one was really selling them on, like, I never found another spool, and I searched uh not that hard, but I searched hard, let's say, for
What
another spool.
reel do you
Oh,
have?
it was I think it was the reel that came before the Spectrum.
Oh, yep.
I do like Sage reels. Not as hard knock on Sage reels, but I did have one blow up on me. But
Yep.
I definitely do like them.
Yep.
And there was brand new reel. Not even a full year I had it, and the drag blew up on me when I was out steelheading in -3, -4 degree weather.
Yeah, I have a Sage Spectrum.
See?
There's multiple different levels of spectrums, right?
Spectrum, Spectrum C.
Yeah.
and then the saltwater one, which is the Sage Spectrum something, I think.
Yeah. It's not the Spectrum C, it's like one of the other ones.
Mhm.
And
Maybe the C is the saltwater one, and I'm confused.
I, it would however it goes,
Yeah.
um the drag is blown on it,
Mhm.
but honestly, like if I fully crank the drag, you can still like pull line off of it like with like pretty easy like tension.
Yeah.
Um Honestly, I love it and I will never get it fixed
Yeah.
because I love the fact that I can put full tension on, still be able to like pull line off. So even if a fish makes a run on full drag, it's still going to take line out. And like I have gotten into playing the reel. Yeah, exactly. Playing the reel with my hand.
Man.
Yeah. Or like honestly, play like if you're holding the rod, you can like put tension on with your pinky.
Mhm.
You can like censor it with your like pinky or middle or like ring finger pretty well.
Yeah. I just got my I just got my first click and pawl reel, and and then I just came to realize not long ago that my buddy actually has a click and pawl reel for his trout rod,
Yep.
dry fly setup. And have yet to actually, well, I caught a really nice rainbow on his setup with the click and pawl.
Hmm.
Um, but I always set my drag so it's just like me pulling fast off my reel. It won't bird's nest, but not a ton of drag, and I've
Yeah.
always palmed my reels.
Yep.
And if it was a caged reel, I would put my finger inside of it. That sounds funny. I'd put my finger inside of it or kind of hold the line. So I've always basically treated my reels as a click and pull. To
Yeah.
me, it's just that much more fun.
Yeah.
Um,
Like very seldom do I actually crank the drag down.
yeah,
Right. Very seldom am I putting it like full force on a fish.
yeah, exactly. And honestly, with like bigger fish, not cranking that drag down um, probably will save you them, because when they do that first burst of run, if your drag is too high, you lose the fish.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
If it's too low at bird's nest, so that midpoint where it can still run,
Hmm.
um, but not bird's nest, and everything's good, but then you apply extra pressure. Like very rarely will I ever crank my drag up a little bit higher during a fight. Like it's happened
Hmm.
some spring salmon, just because I was like, all right, I need a little bit more than even just my hand. Like this thing's a beast. But yeah, it's to me it's fun to fight a fish with a click and pawl.
Yep.
I bet you in our lifetime we'll see a little bit more of a click and pawl outburst again.
I I mean, there's a lot like
Maybe there is more than I know, and I'm just
yeah, like I feel like a lot of people Euro with Click and Paw, and then like Sage has a couple that they've come out with. Uh,
Islander.
Ross has a couple.
Do you know Islander reels?
What brand?
Islander.
I don't know. I don't think so.
They're made on the island.
Ooh,
Putting it out there. Now, Islander reels are awesome. They're loud reel, like the clicking is loud,
yeah.
but they make ocean rod or reels, um, and then they
But
started. Well,
send me the link after this. I want to check
yeah,
them out.
beautiful reels. Like if you search up Islander reels, they are gorgeous.
Okay.
People that like Islander reels love Islander reels. And I think for the price point, it's a little bit higher. So maybe it's not your beginner reel, but since they started with saltwater reels, I think almost all of them are saltwater rated. Maybe some of the fly reels aren't, but
Okay.
they are very good reels. And it's not a massive company, so if you call them and you're like, I mean, especially for me being on the island, if I called them and said, "Hey, I need this certain spring, if mine broke," they'll send it to you.
Oh, really? Okay.
And then also they're just very on it. And one of my good friends, Jordan, he works for Islanders as well. So
Oh, hell yeah.
if you know me and you you grease me up a little, I could probably get you your stuff fixed quick. No, probably not, but maybe, who knows. But at least for me or my friends, we could probably at least get an inside man to tell us what we're looking at here. So yeah,
Good looking reels too.
they are really good looking reels. I'm not sponsored by them. I don't even own an Islander reel. Not
They're,
because,
they're very like classic spay reel looking.
yeah. And um there's one, the MR3, I think it's called. Once again, I don't own one, so I might be wrong, but it's
ER.
it's a it's a center pin reel that you can convert into a fly reel, and then it's like basically like an old school click and pawl, which is super. Yeah, really nice reels, very durable.
Yeah.
My one friend put his through the ringer, and it did eventually have issues, but he also put it through the ringers hard. So yeah, I'm not sponsored by anything, so everything I talk about is literally me out there fishing or what I've heard from people. And I kind of like it that way. I was talking with the last guest about monetizing the podcast eventually, because I guess that's kind of, eventually where I'll go. But I don't ever want to have to be like, oh, get this product when it's not something I full on live by.
Yep.
I
I
guess,
I feel like once you sell out, that's
yeah.
that's the point where it takes a turn.
Yeah. And I feel like most fly companies or fly fishing companies um, are. I feel like all my flies that I've tied have slightly made the gills bigger and bigger until I got to this fly and had to like, whoa, that's too big. Anyways, yeah, I feel like a lot of the smaller companies, anyways, that I might ever get on with, let's say if that does ever happen, probably are something I would stand behind 100%.
Yeah.
But I don't want, you know, yeah, I don't want to angle someone towards that. That was a little fishing terminology there. um, Towards something just because I'm trying to make a buck. I guess that would be sellout if I ever did. But
Yeah.
to me, it's like, I've found brands that are expensive or inexpensive, and the reasons I like them always come to like reliability,
Yep.
cost, and then,
I
I
think
break it,
service.
will you get it back to me?
Yeah.
That's huge.
Which I think like COVID kind of changed the mentality of a lot of people with that. Like Orvis and Temple Fork now, you can just go on their website and order the part that you need. Like, let's say you snap the midsection of a rod,
Yeah.
you don't have to send it back to them in order to get it fixed. You just go on their website and you say, I have this rod, uh, this this part of the rod broke, and then you pay 30, 40, 60 bucks, and they'll send you that that midsection of the LK Legacy 9 foot 5 weight. They'll send you the second
Yeah.
piece if you need it or whatever.
That's where Echo and TFO, I believe TFO does that as well, where
Yep.
you can just get a piece. And then for me, having my fly shop that I love so much, shout out Robinsons.
Yeah.
They've always had the piece for me, and then if not, they've done some things to make it happen much quicker.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, like, even when I talk about sending my waders away, which I've only now done once in my lifetime, um, it's a hard thing if you don't have two pairs of waders, and not everyone can afford two pairs, and not everyone fishes enough to have two pairs. But if you're sending,
Definitely used my work waders once or twice when like my personals got holes in it.
Yeah.
I've been like, well, I got this pair from work, but
You're not supposed to, but I am.
yeah, like at that point, it's like if I break my work pair, then it's on me, you know. But it's
Yeah.
like I'll use my work pair for a day or two while the aqua seal dries on the other one,
Yeah.
and then I'll just go back using my personals.
Yeah. And that's like, I don't know. I had really good experiences with Patagonia.
Okay.
Their waiters have done me really well, and there's a they have a Patagonia place in Vancouver, so I just need to send it in.
Oh, really?
I believe so. Yeah, it happens fast. Like I sent my last pair in, and then the store that sent it in got a credit for me. So when I went there, I was able to just go grab the same waiters and
Oh, sweet,
walk out with a brand new pair.
sweet.
So yeah, and I mean you can't do that for your whole life, I guess, or maybe like depending, but
Mhm.
being able to get another pair of waders when they cost. I got the zipper one. If you
Yep.
have the extra money to get the zipper on your waders and it rains a lot where you are, buy them and then wait like a month of fishing in heavy rain when you need to take a piss, and
Hmm.
and then send me a message and be like, these still weren't worth it, and I would be shocked because that
Eh,
never, when you can have your rain jacket on and just unzip your rain jacket, unzip your waders, and take a piss. I know, ladies, I'm sorry,
Sorry, ladies,
the
but
guy thing. Um, I guess there is that one thing that women can use that will
yeah. I
and
mean, yeah, I've heard that's still like messy as hell though.
yeah,
So
I kind of see that being. So this is for guys. I'm sorry, but message me and tell me they weren't worth it. They
I-
weren't worth that extra $100.
I'm actually going to use my first pair of zipper waders tomorrow.
Dude,
I've never used them before, and I just got a pair, and I'm going to give it a go.
just stand, crack your neck, roll your shoulders back, close your eyes, unzip your jacket, unzip your waders, let it all hang out, and just take a piss. And then open your eyes and look around, and you'll feel the beautiful bliss of being able to pee with a rain jacket on in heavy rain. And even if it's not raining, just pretend it's pouring on you and you just are cold and you don't want to take off your jacket, and you will instantaneously be like, that was the best extra. And a lot of people have mentioned that they're
I'll call you tomorrow when I'm on the river. I'll
while
call
you're pissing,
and I'll be like,
let me know. Let me know.
"You were right."
I will never buy a pair of waders without the zipper due to that reason.
And you've never had any problem with the zipper leaking or anything like
That's what everyone worries about. Those zippers, the reason that any dry bag with a zipper costs so much more than a dry bag with just like the roll down thing, like it's usually exactly like $150 more, is because that zipper costs the company about $75
that.
just
Oh,
to buy the zipper.
yeah. Okay.
I've never, mind you, I don't wade that deep, so it's not like I'm standing in water, but I have waded slightly that deep and had the water up to my like chest, maybe 6, 7 inches under where it would start going over. Um, and didn't leak. I've never taken off my zipper and just had a wet spot down the center of my chest, proving to me that it was leaking. I'm
Okay.
sure it has happened prior, but I think at the stage that those zippers are at now,
Yeah.
I wouldn't stress about it. And if it did happen, it's a manufacturer defect.
Yep.
100%. It's not going to. And I have that same zipper. I believe it's the same brand of zipper because Patagonia and Sims aren't making those zippers. They're buying those zippers.
Yeah.
I think that's the same one Fish Pond uses, or very similar. And
Hmm.
my Fish Pond bags are always dry. And then, yeah, I think the quality of those zippers that are actually like watertight is way past what it was when that argument could have been something.
Gotcha.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I've like I said, I've never put them to the test, so
yeah.
this year I will. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I just freaking love that thing right there.
dude, it is sweet.
I love that. I totally positioned it so when I like lean back, it would be right there.
Here, I'll turn this around.
That
Now we have 3 Dead Drifters logos on
the OG one. This is one that I eventually hats are expensive and I'm trying to save money, people, so maybe hats will come back. Actually, hats will for sure come back. So if ever you see them, you gotta hop on them. But we got 2 of these patches left because I've sewed them on some separate ones, and then I got 1 of these patches left just in case I ever need to throw it on a hat. Yep, the OG brown trout patch. And then I got these made up a while ago.
Ooh, are those leather?
Yeah, these are leather patches.
That's hot.
I have one on my hat, and it's super like this really good leather. It's made by Timber and Fin, which he's out of Montreal, I believe. And I actually just got that reel case. Did you see that reel case that I posted? I haven't posted it. I just put it on my story.
Okay, yeah.
He makes like custom reel cases for your reels.
Oh hell yeah!
And then 2 clasps at the front, so you can also have your rod in it.
Oh sweet,
Sweet. Close it over. So yeah, he printed me these out with a laser engraver, but it did a really good job. I want to get a close up of that,
dude. Hell yeah!
So I got a stack of these, and eventually, when money is not tight, I will for sure put these all on hats. The only thing about these ones, these I have to sew them on myself, which I'm actually very good at sewing. Shout out Army cadets. What? they taught me some shit. I can read a map.
Yeah.
I got some skills.
Yeah.
But yeah, so these ones, if someone messaged me and was like, "Hey man, I really want one of those patches," I would definitely sell them for sure. But yeah, they're just sitting here. I'm just waiting for the right time. I know I didn't actually make money on the hats. I basically broke even if we count the design, how much it cost for the design and how much it cost for everything. So it wasn't like, I'm not in the green off of the hats, but it was something that I obviously love
Oh yeah.
wearing the hat, and obviously
I mean, like I've had people ask me about it, like while I was working and stuff. They'd be like, what is that? And then I've explained it. So
yeah, it's yeah, it's one of those things. When I did place those orders, I was just a little bit better in the green, and then obviously when I sold them, I got the money back. But yeah, I paid off my truck, so
yeah,
get there to come soon, and I've been working hard and trying to save the shillings. You got to save up the shillings.
yeah.
Nest egg now. It's not massive, but it's there. So I really
like those winter months always cut into that nest egg, and then you're just like, all right, summer's coming, overtime is coming. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. And I went. It was get back from Cranbrook, and then was working a bit. Then went on my honeymoon, and then got back, and it was basically my son's birthday, and then it was Christmas, and I haven't even fully recovered from that. Like that's some haunting shit that just happened. So I was like, babe, this year we are not going anywhere. We're just hunkering down. We're going both just keep grinding. And, I got the truck paid off. I'm happy. The truck didn't blow up yet. I'm really happy. But it's coming. It's going to blow up on me one day, and I'm going to need those shillings to to counter that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, usually it's the second you pay it off, then it's like, well,
One that it's the kilometers are getting up there. So
what what year is it?
it's 2013, and I bought it with like 170,000 kilometers, and then I probably put on, I don't know exactly the number, but it's up at 260.
Oh shit, okay.
Yeah, so and I had a 5-year payment plan or 5.5-year payment plan, so I definitely put on quite a bit. I've done a lot of from Alberta home driving,
Yeah,
paving. I did it like 6 times in a season or 4 times in a season, something like that. And so she's
yeah.
seen road. I've showed her the ways. She's been down in some bushes. Been hit by another vehicle and repaired, and she burns a little oil here and there, and I top her off, but
Can't burn oil if she doesn't have oil. Remember?
oh, I'll try that next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She
It's
stops burning, then you worry.
we just think more now about things that haven't happened when as you grow older. When I was younger and I was buying all this fishing shit, I careless, Oh yeah, I'll buy this $500 reel with a $500 rod with $150 line
Yep.
and all the materials to go with it.
Yep.
And now I'm like, how much is that? I got a haircut today, me and my son, and then I was like, how much will that be? And the lady said $70. And I was like, and then when we left, I like looked at my wife and I was like, we're going to the other place next time. It's $20 a haircut, and it's $15 for his haircut, and I leave the guy a nice little tip, and he's happy and I'm happy, and
Yeah.
the fish don't care, and it's under my hat the whole time anyways. Like, what the heck was that? $70? And she was like, well, I pay this much for my haircut, and I'm like, yeah, no.
Yeah, yeah.
I could fly tying materials I could buy with that kind of money.
Yeah, like the men's haircuts versus like women's haircuts is just stupid.
Yeah. And we would still probably be with them if they didn't get that expensive haircut.
I
We're,
mean,
we're that pathetic of beings that we'll
you
look at
said me, like,
we'll dim the lights. Yeah, I don't know. It is crazy, and I mean, whatever floats your boat. Not
yeah,
hate, but I was like, oh, they're not getting my business no more.
uh,
But watch, by the time we go back, we'll go to the same place because it had been long enough. I'd forgotten this whole conversation
yeah.
process. But he has a mullet. It's super gangster. It's so nice. I love it.
Hell yeah.
Sharp. Um,
You gonna start playing hockey?
back, business in the front, that kind of thing.
Is he gonna start playing hockey?
Lacrosse probably.
You know what? Still flows. Still
Yeah.
flows.
And probably rugby. So
Oh, okay. All right.
yeah, there's contact.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What if he doesn't have time? We might be out fishing every weekend. That's my goal.
You know what? Mullets on the river still work.
Mullets on the river still work, and he's young enough that it doesn't like nobody would be like, oh, that's not, he's prime time to have a mullet, and they're fashionable currently. By the time they're not fashionable, he'll probably have a sense of he wants to get a haircut different.
Yeah.
So leave that in his ball court. But while I'm paying the bills and the wife wants it, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kids haircuts too. It's like, I don't know. I see kids with like super clean cuts and they look good. Not knocking that, but it's like, dude, get him in some mud. He's 5 years old. Let him roll around in that mud.
Go touch some grass.
Go touch some grass. Yeah. Get him out. Get him out. So, yeah, sports will definitely be a thing for him. I wasn't, shout out my mom. She's a beautiful person, but we didn't have the money to put me through a ton of sports. And I know there was some programs, and obviously I did play some sports, but yeah, I would like him to be in some. And our oldest, she plays lacrosse, so he sees lacrosse, so he wants to play.
Okay. Sweet.
Yeah. And then like there's a bit of a long line in my wife's family of kids playing lacrosse, so
Oh, okay.
probably in his blood.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds.
He's whacked me with some shit. He's got a good whack. So yeah. But no, it's good, man. Yeah, fuck, we're rambling now.
Yeah,
There's already the Rambling Fly podcast, so I can't call myself that, but that's what we're doing, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah, it's getting on.
Talking to you, man.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. I think we always have a good chat when we get on. So yeah.
Yeah. The progression of the conversation always winds its way through. So
yeah, especially when it's like someone I've had on multiple times. Oh, actually, no, pretty much always gets a little more rambly by the end of it. Well, you cover all the fishing shit, and then life stuff comes up.
yeah, but
so. But on the end note, I guess is that my brain's not working as good as it could. What is because you asked me what my summer season's looking like, so I guess I should end on what's your summer season looking like?
Yeah. So we do like monthly sampling for juvenile salmon presence and absence on this tidal river flat here outside of northern Anchorage. A lot of like minnow trapping for coho and chinook, and we get rainbow in there too. We occasionally get sockeye, a bunch of Dolly Varden, stuff like that. And then got a couple trainings coming up, and then June it really turns on pretty hot. There'll be I'll do like an 8-day remote float down a river in kind of eastern Alaska-ish, the Golcana River. It'll be an 8-day float from a lake down to like the main stem takeout, doing some temperature logging of the water. And then just so happens there will be really good fishing along it. Whoops. What a shame. And then we'll do some tagging of kings. We'll throw temperature loggers in their esophagus, and we'll track them with like radio trackers throughout the entire summer, and then collect them. So there'll be a bunch of 3-4 day floats all throughout the summer, a bunch of days at Fish Weir tagging those salmon, and then just a lot of time on the water, a lot of canoe floats, and a lot of rain or shine floats down the river. There's like between 60 and 75 miles each float, with a whole bunch of sampling gear. We'll trap minnows we'll take minnow traps along the way and trap salmon smolt as well. Again, to see like what parts of the rivers they're using to, grow and seek refuge and all that. Take temperature data all along the way. A lot of the stuff that what's Xena was talking about.
Yeah, I was just going to mention her
Yep.
/ ask you if you do the electrode stuff at all.
So our projects don't require the electrofishing. I've done a lot of electrofishing for previous jobs, and my master's work did electrofishing as well. But for the projects that we're working on, the questions that we're asking don't require electrofishing. It's a lot more passive.
A few times, zip,
Yeah.
Understood.
It's a lot more passive trapping that we do. The king salmon where we're doing work are like they're hurting real bad. So we don't want to take any chances in hurting them at all. Electrofishing is a non-lethal sampling technique. That being said, it still has the potential to be lethal, just like everything, really. You could have lethal minnow trapping if you do it improperly too, but um, yeah, a lot of telemetry work, tracking those tags that we put in the kings. A lot of river floats with doing all sorts of temperature and minnow trapping and telemetry and all that stuff. So I'll be on the water every single week in some aspect, and yeah, it'll be a good time. So take a fishing rod with me every time too. So
Oops.
yeah, well,
Oh, there it is.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Tough life for you, eh? Just
it's horrible.
rain or shine.
Shit, right? So
Yeah. No, that's cool, man. It's and having a passion for angling, all that stuff is good knowledge, but then
mhm,
also you can add into to helping the systems and at least learn some shit about them and
yeah,
hopefully so
yeah. So yeah, hopefully what we do will help inform managers to change regulations or do something to help the populations along. So
yeah.
fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, man. Well, you're doing the Lord's work out there. I love it.
Work it ain't much, but it's honest work, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Yeah, and you can't, a bad day out there, you're sitting on a river.
yeah, I mean, like, so we get a little wet, but
Yeah.
still not behind a desk looking at a computer.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. But to those who do that, shout out to you guys.
yeah, I mean, then come the fall time, it'll be all data entry, and then I will be looking at the computer. But
Yeah,
for a good couple months, it'll be outside almost 24/7. So
yeah, that's good. That's good, man. Well, yeah, we'll wrap it up there.
well,
Um, yeah, Mitch, it's been a pleasure, and
always great talking to you, man.
keep that line tight, and I'll see you on there.
Yeah, till next time, and yeah, have a good season on the water.
Yeah, I loved my intro there as my brain just gave out, but much love, buddy. You have a good season, and I'm sure we'll talk before next time we're have you back on. So
Awesome. Tight lines, brother.
be safe. Cheers.